Hey, this is Mike D at downpeppertreelane.com, and it's fall, Halloween, time for some ghostly tales. We're going to start with the Rolling Stones. Were they into the occult in the late 60s? They had an album called Their Satanic Majesty's Request, a song called Sympathy for the Devil, an album later in the 70s called Goat's Head Soup. Um, that's used in witchcraft. You can kind of go down that rabbit hole in their lyrics if you want to see what they were into, or if it was just showbiz. But I will tell you about a little mystery regarding the Stones. In 1963, Brian Jones, the guy with the longer blonde hair, founded the band. He started it and he booked all the gigs and he played lots of instruments, very talented, a very bluesy guy. But rough, kind of up off the streets, really. And as the 60s wore on, Jagger Richards had the songwriting skills, and they became the nucleus of the band and the most important part because everything flows from the songwriting. So they became leaders, and Brian was in a back position more as an instrumentalist and a live performer. He did not handle this well. He should have accepted his limitations. And it's important in life to understand and be grateful for what you have. He was a member of the Rolling Stones, but it made him very unhappy, depressed. He acted out. There were a lot of drugs involved with Brian. There was fighting over a girlfriend named Anita Pallenberg between Brian and Keith. It got really messy toward the late 60s. And by 1969, I mean, they're in the studio one day and Brian looks at Mick Jagger and he says, "Well, what can I do?" And Mick says, "I don't know, mate. What can you do?" And that was about the end. They fired him in about May of 69. And he had some money. He retired off to the country and he bought an estate that was owned by the writer of Winnie the Pooh. Believe it or not, this beautiful, lovely estate. And that was the history of Winnie the Pooh was written there. So he settles in. He still has an entourage and all these ladies and hangers-on, wannabe musicians, etc., around him. And they party, and he's trying to get on with his life. But what happens is he starts to reconstruct the house. He has remodeling done pretty extensively in the living room, family room areas, and there's a lot of workmen on the property. These are hard laborers. They're working all day, sweating, very hard work. If you've ever done it, you know it's lifting, it's physical labor. And they had to watch this rock star, this pretty boy, and all of his friends kind of lounge around and pluck at guitars and party and have fun. There's many theories about what happened next, but I've laid the groundwork to what I think my theory is. One evening in July, they were all around a swimming pool, and there was drugs and alcohol involved, so people had impaired judgment. And the workmen were around. They may have crossed the line and been kind of invited to party and have fun with these wealthy musician types. And once again, I think they had this anger, this working class anger toward people who were much more well off. And apparently, like I said, I believe after reading many different accounts about this, that the workmen were in the pool with Brian Jones. It was late at night, and they were involved in horseplay. And Brian was a shorter guy, and they were picking on him and pushing him under the water. And he also had asthma. He couldn't breathe well. And like I said, they may have been drinking, which caused impairment of judgment, of horseplay and what's going too far. Apparently, he went under the water and nobody rescued him. Or when they did finally pull him up, it was too late and he drowned. He died, death by misadventure. So it's never been, no one was ever charged. The investigation went nowhere. It was very strange. There's just whispers and rumors. Apparently, many years later, one of the workmen made a tape where he confessed to horseplay and pushing him under just out of jealousy, out of spite. But that's never been proven. Anyone can make a tape and it's anonymous and we don't know. But I've heard the tape. It's interesting. I'll just put it at that. So that was the Rolling Stones mystery. The original guitarist drowned in a pool after he was fired from the band. And they moved on to a new guitarist and are still going strong. They have a great new album called Hackney Diamonds. I strongly recommend it. All right, let's shift over to a quick little mystery about the Eagles. They have their signature album is Hotel California. And a lot of people don't really know where that iconic shot is of that hotel. Is it the Santa Barbara Mission? Where is it? Is it in Mexico? People have always wondered about that. It's kind of spooky and eerie. And the song is about the dark side of the American dream, as we all know. But turns out that it was photographed at the Beverly Hills Hotel, but from a very high angle, very high up on a crane, actually. So people just did not recognize it. It gave it a spooky, eerie ambiance. And now when you opened up the album, the vinyl album, it was called a gatefold cover. There was all the band in the lobby, and they're kind of staring in a sinister way or a creepy way at the camera with all their entourage and all their friends. But if you're a teenager like me at the time, you want to look at all the nooks and crannies of this hotel lobby. And if you look up the stairs and go to the right, in the corner, there's like a female dark spirit kind of bending over the balcony. And it appears she has like some kind of chiffon outfit on. And she's hovering over the whole lobby. Very creepy and odd. It's in silhouette. And the band, the Eagles, are not talking about it, and people don't have albums anymore. So try to find it and check that one out. All right, let's move on over here to another creepy spot in my home. I just want to talk about personally when I was growing up in Los Angeles. There's all kinds of hills and valleys and canyons in the suburbs around Los Angeles. And I lived in a really dark canyon. It was called Dead Horse Canyon originally. I don't know why, but later renamed Royal Canyon. And me and my friends would go trick-or-treating. This was late 70s. And we would stay out till late at night. And there were not a lot of street lamps, maybe one for a street that's half a mile long. So there would be a pool of light, but you'd be plunged into darkness with these big, spooky, leafy green trees. And we'd be out till 10 at night trying to get as much free candy as possible. And we would dare each other to ring doorbells that did not even have porch lights on, or maybe just one little light in the window. And sometimes no one would answer. Sometimes they would and give out a little candy. Sometimes nothing. It was really strange and mysterious. And the legend at the time is that there were homeowners that would put a razor blade inside of an apple or a candy bar and give it to you. And of course, you would bite into it and bleed to death and die. So that was a really creepy urban legend of the razor blade at the time. And we were always worried about that. That was before the internet, where everything was word of mouth, urban legend. And lastly, up one of the windy canyon roads was a place known as the Witch's House. And my friend would take me up there, and he said back in the 60s, all the houses in the canyon burned down except for this one. And it was like tall and thin. It was cement with one red light in the window, very creepy at night. And we would dare each other to go up there. And one night I did around midnight in my car, which was a stick shift. And the car completely stalled right in front of this house. I don't know if it was bad mojo or if I was under a little spell and just stalled out there. really crazy and creepy. And I was freaking out in the car until I could finally get my car started again, put it in first gear, and get out of there. And actually, I'll close with the legend of Charman. There's a little California town in the mountains called Ojai, and they have the legend of Charman. And it goes back to a big fire in 1948. And apparently, there was a man and his wife in a cabin, and the wife died in the fire, but the man was burned to a crisp. And he came out and he scared the firemen and he freaked them out and ran off into the woods. And he terrorizes locals to the day till this day. And the legend goes that if you go to Camp Comfort Park, which is in this creepy canyon surrounded by these giant trees, um, there's a bridge, and if you stand at the bridge around midnight and yell out, help me," this charman will come blazing out of the forest and try to capture you or burn you up as well. It's a widespread local tale. There's even charman hot sauce. You can look that up. And there's many variations of the story, but I have been on those dark roads late at night in Ojai around Halloween. It's very scary, and you never know if this Charman was based on a real, actual burn victim of a fire, and now they're coming back for their revenge, or what. But that is the legend of Charman up in Ojai. So there's 4 scary tales for you, and I'm Mike D at downpeppertreelane.com. Check out my merch at the shop. Like and subscribe. Happy Halloween. Boo.